Go.
Great. Okay, welcome to the March 4th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Southampton Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held via video conferencing in accordance with the Governor's Order 202.1. And until further notice, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. There is also options on the website for public comments and to pre-register to speak at the public meeting. So please consider doing this in advance. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting. Please go to the town's meeting portal, choose the meeting group from the drop-down on the left and click the live link at the top of the page. If you wish to be heard during the meeting but did not pre-register, please go to the town's meeting portal, choose the meeting group from the drop-down on the left. You will find information required to join the meeting. With that, I'd ask you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of
United
the United
States
States of America
and to the
and to
republic
the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty
with
and
liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
We'll be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Certain will mute the speakers until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you're having difficulty accessing the hearing, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Also, there are a few public hearings that will not be heard tonight / adjourned, so please listen to hear when they will be rescheduled for. And remember that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will all need to be sworn in. Will state their name and address for the record and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the hearing. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until April 5th, 2021. Those comments can be addressed to the board secretary, Candace, and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall. Additionally, in accordance with the governor's order, these hearings will be recorded and will be posted on the town's website. And with that, we will turn to the agenda for the adjournments. Mr. Tuttle.
Okay, folks, there are some changes to the agenda. I'll start with item 3 on the agenda, which is Julie Medler, 80 Bay Streets in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-57-1-35. That's going to be re-advertised for our March 18th meeting. Item 6 on the agenda, which is, I'm going to do 3 here. I'm going to do item 6, 7, and 8, which is Productions Holden LLC and Tyrone Tertullian, 57 and 61 Station Road, West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-355-2-18.6 and 18.7. Item 7 is Tyrone Tertullian, 57 Station Road, West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-355-2-18.6. And item 8 is Production Holdings LLC, 61 Station Road, West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-355-2-18.7. So items 6, 7, and 8 going to be adjourned to our 5:20 meeting.
Second.
Very good. Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 9 on the agenda, which is 94 Dune Road Holden Corp., 94 Dune Road in East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-385-1-37.3, I'll move that we adjourn that to our 5-6 meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye.
item 10 on the agenda, which is NYCELEX Real Estate Holdings Development Corp., 376 Main Street in Eastport, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-349-2-24. I move to adjourn that to our April 15th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
item 11 on the agenda, which is Stuart Boski, 703 Flying Point Road in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-178-1-17.80. I move to adjourn that to our March 18th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's adjourned. Thank you.
item 12 on the agenda, which is MRB ICBC LLC, 719 Daniels Lane in Sagaponack, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-10-4-13. I'll move to adjourn that to our April 1st meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Matter is adjourned. Thank you.
item 15 on the agenda is 135 New Light LLC, 135 New Light Lane in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-84-1-33.2. I move to adjourn that to our April 1st meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
Aye,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Matter is adjourned. Thank you.
on the decision calendar, I have Michael and Jean Petrie. I'm gonna move to reopen this case to accept written submissions. And then we'll, after we receive the writtens, then I'll move that we also have a determination tonight.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Decision later this evening.
95 Crescent LLC in Noyak. I move to reopen to accept written submissions, and then we'll have a determination tonight.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Written submissions accepted. Decision this evening.
all right, and then, let's see here. 318 is popular. I'm gonna move to adjourn the following decisions to our March 18th meeting. 85 Eastway LLC, Eric Marshallatis, also to 318, Michael Scrolla and Jacqueline Kress, 318, and Elizabeth Haslam, 318.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Matters are adjourned.
and Susan and Matt Daimler. I move to reopen to accept written submissions. Once that's done, I move to close with a determination tonight.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle,
All right,
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Written submissions accepted. Determination this evening.
okay. And that's what I got.
I have John and Audrey Newenhouse. Is there a motion to adjourn that determination until 4/1?
So moved.
Good. Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye, sorry, Mr. Chair, I missed that one.
You had a lot of reading tonight. It's okay. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Matter adjourned to 4-1 for determination. Okay, back to the start of our agenda. Number 1, please, Mr. Tuttle.
16 Sagamore LLC, 16 Sagamore Road in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-230-1-20. Applicant requests a determination as to whether or not the proposed garage is a subordinate or incidental building pursuant to Town Code 330-5 definitions because of its size in proportion to the main dwelling and its use. In addition, applicant requests the following relief. 1, for proposed garage on a non-conforming lot. 330-34, business district table of dimensional regulations for an accessory rear yard setback of 10 feet where 50 feet is required, and 330-84D, pyramid height for an encroachment in the amount of 749 cubic feet and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. We're looking for Susanna.
Hello.
Hi, Susanna.
Hi.
All right, this is the first appearance, so do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please give us your name and address for the record.
Susanna Herman and Consultants, 1319 North Sea Road, Southampton.
Great, thank you. You can let us know why you're here.
Okay, so can I share my screen?
Please.
Can you see that? It's the survey.
Yep.
Okay, so we're proposing a garage on a property that has an existing 2-story residence. The existing residence is only about 1,000 square feet. The footprint is 502 square feet. So the total is about 1,000 square feet for the existing house. Our proposed garage has a square footage of 1,190 square feet. The property is only 10,000 square feet in area. It's in a resort waterfront zone with a pre-existing CO for the small house here. They later added this this deck, which is a raised deck with a concrete below. That's 350 square feet. The proposed garage needs 3 variances, as was described. We are proposing a 10-foot setback to the rear yard. Resort waterfront business requires a 50-foot setback. However, resort waterfront business also requires a 60-foot front yard setback. The lot is only 100 feet deep. So there is no conforming envelope whatsoever. There is, the front and rear setbacks would overlap. So we're proposing it 10 feet from the rear yard, as well as 10 feet from the side yard. There is no required side yard setback in resort waterfront business, but we thought a 10-foot setback was fairly reasonable given the lot size and the character of the neighborhood. We're also requesting pyramid relief of 749 cubic feet.
What's the size of the garage?
The garage,
I noticed it's not on the survey.
it is 30 feet by 25 feet. So the footprint is 750 square feet. There's storage above, so it is 2-story, and above the second floor is 440 square feet.
You said, Suzanne, that it was 1,190 feet. Is that correct?
Correct. That's 750 on the bottom, which is enough for 2 cars, plus a little 5-foot storage area in the back. I can show you a floor plan.
Well, I have a question before we get there while you're looking for that, Susanna. Katie, my understanding was that the building department, if there was a 2-car garage, didn't have to come here. Is it because it's the size of the 2-car garage, or?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything. I can't remember what the standard two-car garages. I think this is slightly larger than that, but it's also the storage above. You know, because this is, you know, this plus the storage above makes it as big as a house.
Makes it bigger than the house.
Bigger than the house.
It would be slightly bigger than the house.
Not
Um,
slightly, quite a bit bigger.
The,
So what are we doing with the garage, Susanna? You just looking to park 2 cars in there that have some storage space
right,
know,
so let me go,
downstairs and storage space upstairs?
right, let me go back to the survey. Maybe I'll show some pictures right now as well. But yeah, with the house being only 1,000 square feet, there's no room whatsoever for storage. There's also, let me blow this up a little bit. There's a shed here, which is to be removed because that's in a non-conforming location and that's old. So there's no storage. So the back of the back portion of the garage would serve as sort of a shed. It actually has sort of separate entrances here, a separate entrance for a shed-like area here. And then this is the stairs to go to the upstairs. It's not out of character with the neighborhood. Most of the, let me pull up my photos. This is a photo from the road here. This obviously is the existing house. This is the deck. So it actually looks quite a bit larger than 1,000 square foot house because I think this makes it look quite a bit larger. In this area, there are quite a few garages that are right on the property line. The adjacent property, both to the east and the west, have garages or structures within 2 feet of the property line. This is the property to the east. This garage is actually shown on the survey for the subject property.
And why can't they move it forward to avoid pyramid if we were interested in giving some front yard relief?
If you moved it forward, that wouldn't, the pyramid is from the side.
They make it a little, I just think that it's a large 2-car garage for this lot. I mean, a 24 by 24 garage is 576 feet, which is almost 250 feet smaller than what's proposed. And I think recently that's in the range of 2-car garages that we've approved under similar situations. So that would be my recommendation based on what the board has recently asked applicants to do. I don't know if your applicant is willing to consider that, but that's just one vote.
Okay.
That would be close to my opinion too. So that's 2 votes.
So Brian, you said 24 by 24?
Yeah, I think that's what we, when we could check the approval, I think we went 24 by 24 or 25 by 25 was a recent approval because with counting the second floor on a percentage wise.
I believe at the last meeting we did 24 by 24.
Right.
And that's still
It's still a large percentage, but the house is small, so
yeah,
in my opinion, I'm taking that into consideration
yeah.
in the ratio, but allowing for a full 2-car garage. If, you know, for the applicant.
That would still probably need a variance with respect to not being subordinate, but you're saying that would be less of a variance as far as the percentage of the size of the garage relative to the house.
It would be less of that, and you know, if they can in the reduction, it should also help with your pyramid.
Right. The reason that it's located where it is located, as opposed to shifting it into the property, is because we wanted to leave as much of the property open because no time in the immediate future, but at some point in the future, they do want to, or they're likely to, don't want to exclude the possibility of redoing this house. It is a pre-existing house. It's pre-1957, has a pre-existing CO. So either that would be added on to, or more likely knocked down and a new house built more centrally in the lot, but that plan hasn't been developed. There's no current plan to do that. So that's why the proposed garage is sort of pushed into the corner as much as we felt was reasonable, giving the character of the neighborhood where basically everyone in the surrounding area has a garage within a couple feet of the property line. Also, the septic system is in this area, and we didn't want to push the garage into the area where the potential new septic system might need to go for any expansion of this house or reconstruction of the house. So that's why it's positioned where it's positioned, since there is no conforming location whatsoever.
No, they need relief. It's a challenging lot for that zone.
Right.
And I appreciate that, and we're trying to work with the applicant, but I think in my mind, it's just a little too much. So I'd like to hear from other board member. Well, let's see, is there any other board member questions first?
I think your suggestion is reasonable. I think, as Jason said, 24 by 24 is what we've done recently. And I think that still leaves it large in proportion to the existing house, but the existing house is tiny. So I would be on board with that.
I agree.
Okay.
Myself included.
Okay.
Let's see, is there anybody here from the public before we move on? Raise your hand in the chat box, or Charles?
I see no hands.
Seeing or hearing no one. Are there any other board questions?
How much square footage is on the second story of the garage?
440.
You're going to get less, Keith, with the reduced garage size.
Right. So that's what we've got right now. Let's see.
Well, I'm thinking maybe we should try to condition it so we can never have an accessory apartment up there. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's my thought process.
All right. So here's the elevation.
Would the applicant consider that, Susanna?
Reducing it, which?
Well, the reduction and or Mr. Tuttle's suggestion about not having living space on the second floor.
Living space, I mean, in a garage, in most cases, you can have office or a gym or artist studio, something like that. I don't know if we want to limit it. I mean, obviously, that's different from an accessory apartment, but I don't know if we'd want to prohibit usable space beyond storage.
Well, we don't want to prohibit you getting the variance you need either.
What about no cooking facilities? Would that work?
I think that's fine. I don't think there's any future plan to ever have any cooking here. And right now it's just proposed as storage. I just don't want to limit them unnecessarily.
They could always come back. So maybe you're going to ask them about the reduction. You're going to ask them about Mr. Tuttle's suggestion. Do we want to, when would you like to come back?
When's the next available time? I think we can.
We could have you quickly. We could have this on for 3/18 if you can get the materials in for that. Or you could go to 4/1.
Well, I'm not available 4/1, so let's do 3/18.
And also, Susanna, did you have an opportunity to look at the comments that Marjorie gave us?
Yes, and we did address that. I think your comments related mostly to this outdoor shower, which was put in by a previous owner, which we're proposing to remove. This wood shed would be removed. She had questions about the wood deck. I have some photographs, which I shared with them as well. Did I include that? It's basically decking with a concrete patio below and lattice surrounding that. It's currently used just for storage.
Yeah, the building department notes actually say the space above the garage shall be considered as unfinished, non-habitable space only.
So that's in there. We're going to need an answer on that, Susanna.
Okay.
So we'll Keith, it's your case. Is there a motion to adjourn for all purposes until 3/18?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Mr. Tuttle?
With written submissions by 4/5, so we.
No, it's all purposes, 318, so she's coming back.
Okay, very good. Aye.
Mr. Tuttle?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. See you on 318. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item 2 on the
Before we
agenda.
move on, wait, Mr. Tuttle, before we move on, when you were reading all those adjournments, I lost track of it. So is there a motion to approve the minutes from the February 18th meeting at this time?
So
So
moved.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Tuttle, on to number 2 tonight.
John Morris and Jean Morris, 4083 Noyak Road, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-17-2-67. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 331.65 cubic feet for a proposed second-story addition to an existing dwelling and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Brian DeSess, I'm recusing myself in this matter. I'd ask Mr. Kelly to take over, and Katie, if you could text me when the matter is concluded.
You got it.
Sounds good. Is Brian Locasio with us?
I am here. Good evening, board members.
Excellent. Brian, you're an attorney, correct?
I am an attorney.
So we don't need to swear you in.
Nope.
Just get your name and address,
Yep,
please.
Brian Locasio, 2462 Main Street, Suite 7, Bridgehampton, attorney for the applicant.
Do you have anybody else with you that's going to want to speak, or is it just you tonight?
I believe it is just me. So,
Okay, what you got?
all right. As read, I'm here for 4083 Noyak Road. On behalf of the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Morris, the property is located in R15 zoning. It's a small lot, 16,188 square feet. The lot is currently improved by a single-family dwelling. This house in the current location benefits from a pre-existing non-conforming CO with respect to side yard setback. So as you'll see, that kind of creates a situation we're in with the pyramid relief. The applicant has, since the original submission, made modifications to the roof line to best they can to minimize the relief requested. As read, we're asking for 331.65 cubic feet. It's a modest amount. You can see, which I will share my screen. I'll show you the pyramid plan. All right, 1 second, sorry. Okay, so this is an aerial. You can see the house kind of runs parallel to Noyak Road, but not parallel to the side yard lot line. So the pyramid relief, it's greater in the front and it's less in the rear. It totals actually 330 feet. We're making an addition above an existing house. There's really no other feasible alternative other than relocating the house, which would be a significant economic burden on the owner. It's a modest, approximately 800 square foot addition over an existing house that has a footprint of 1,300 square feet of lot coverage. We're not increasing lot coverage. Aside from the pyramid relief, is otherwise conforms to zoning.
You put that aerial back up for a second.
Yeah,
Brian,
you know,
please?
this type of relief in Noyak with these small lots, the dates of these houses, this is common relief and sought in this area. It's modest with respect to the houses around it. It's going to remain a modest footprint.
Absolutely. I have no problem with this.
Yeah, Brian,
Here.
it is modest relief request. I will say that I was by the property and the sign was missing. So I'm not sure how long it was gone for, but that's always a concern of ours, that when neighbors do not see the notice of showing, the notice of hearing, appears that it had been blown away by wind, and we've had significant winds recently. But I do want to be on record that the sign was not present there when I was there today.
Yeah, okay. But it was posted and we did mail as required, but understood and apologies for that.
Have you heard from any of the neighbors?
No, I've not heard from any of the neighbors since we notified, mailed them.
Okay. Is there any other questions from any of the board members?
No.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on the matter of John and Jean Morris, 4083 Noyak Road in Noyak?
There are no hands.
Okay, Michael, it's yours.
Okay, I'm not, I don't recall the date, so are we going to, we'll close this for all purposes, leaving it open for written submissions until, what is that date? Is that date 4/5?
Yep,
Yes,
April 5th.
Okay, we'll close it, leaving it open for written submissions until April 5th with a decision on April 15th.
Yep.
With a decision on April 15th.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle,
aye.
chair votes aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Take care. Mike.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, item 4 on the agenda is David Sherwood, 22 Bayview Road in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-19-1-16. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code, 330-84D, pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 3,771 cubic feet. That is 2,668 cubic feet on the west side and 1,103 cubic feet on the east side for a proposed two-story dwelling on a non-conforming lot. And 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in resident districts for a rear yard coverage of 25.4%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Great. Good evening, David.
Good evening, everyone.
You could give us your name and address, please.
David Sherwood, 4 First Street, Sag Harbor, New York. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
Great. Thank you so much. Tell us why you're here.
Okay, thank you. So can I, actually, I'm going to share my screen if I could.
That would be very helpful.
Let's see. So we'll do that. Actually, we'll do that. Can everyone see the aerial there?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Can't see anything.
I can see Keith. I'd like to see the aerial.
Uh-oh, what did I do? Oops, okay. All right, so start screen share, and then we'll pick that one. Oh, I have to click share, that's why.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So this is the neighborhood. It's 22 Bayview Road in Sag Harbor, which is off of Noyak Road, located between Cove Avenue East and Cove Avenue West. It parallels Upper Sag Harbor Cove, and it's just closer to town than Sims Road. It was part of a subdivision that was created in 1923 known as Cove Terrace, and it consisted of mostly rectangular 50 by 150 lots that were then sold off in, single, double, triple configurations. And you can sort of see kind of that's the standard shape. The green is the subject property. So lot area is about 7,605 square feet. It's about 170 feet deep, and the width varies from 35 at the street to about 50 feet, 35 in the rear to about 50 at the street. The property is improved with an existing house that was constructed around 1926 and has a pre-existing C of O, and it benefits from both non-conforming setbacks and pyramid. The plan, and this is that's a picture of the existing structure. The plan is to demolish the house and to use the exact footprint and essentially just put a second floor on it. based on the current R15 zoning, even with a 4/10 relief resulting from single and separate title status, the side yards would render about a 10-foot wide building envelope kind of down the middle of the lot. So it's a pretty tough lot. So it made sense to use the existing footprint and nonconformities, and to use also some of the pre-existing non-conforming pyramid as well.
David, just on that point, not to cut you off, sorry. The existing house appears to violate the pyramid law.
It does, yeah.
So would you have that calculation? And if
Yep.
not, that would be something we would look for.
Yep, no, I do have that, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Great.
The variance tonight is twofold. One is for the pyramid relief, and the second half, which I'm actually going to address first, is for rear yard coverage for a proposed pool. Back in the fall, when I was still doing the plans for the house, we thought it would be a good idea to put the building permit in for the pool. I did that. It was reviewed, approved. I have a building permit for the pool, but when I was putting together the survey with all of the requirements for the ZBA application, it was at that time that I said, uh-oh, I'm over on the pool. So didn't build it. And so we're here asking for, I think, what amounts to 100 square feet of relief towards that rear yard coverage, the allowable rear yard coverage. Which gets us up to that 25.4%. Yeah, it's 100.9 square feet of relief for the proposed pool. No
dimensional relief for the pool, correct?
No dimensional relief. This is actually the 10-foot setbacks are as of right using the R15 zoning. So the house, as I mentioned, was built in about 1926, and it was built, as a summer cottage. It's uninsulated. It's 2x4 construction. There's probably about 3 concrete block here, and then it goes down maybe a foot or 2 below grade, and that's it. So it's better than locust posts, but not much. So the idea of putting a second floor on this existing structure didn't make any sense. So we have to take it down and do a new foundation and new framing and go up with the proposed second floor. The current house, and I'll actually go to this. The dark line is the existing house, and then the lighter line is the cape, which we're proposing to replace it with. With our pyramid, on the east side of the property, currently there's 334 cubic feet of non-conforming pyramid. And on the west side, there's 1,673 cubic feet of non-conforming. The total number of cubic feet that we're looking for is 3,771. But when we net that out against the existing, we're really only looking for 1,762 cubic square feet of new relief. During the design process, I made every attempt to sort of look at how we could best minimize, recognizing that it is a narrow lot and that we're already non-conforming, to minimize how much relief we would be looking for. And so I looked at 4 different possibilities. One would be a full 2-story house with a roof paralleling or a north-south ridge. And that comes up with the biggest number. We'd have a 8736 cubic square feet less to 2007 of existing. We'd be netting a 6,729 cubic foot request. The other option is to take that same house, turn it 90 degrees. So now the ridge is running parallel with the road. Still very high numbers with a net request of 5,990. Obviously that is a non-starter. The third option, which makes, I think, the most sense, is the cape. And then it's just a question of which way does the ridge run when you're positioning it with respect to the narrow width of the property. This version here has the ridge running again north-south back into the property, which you would think, because it would be semi-following the pyramid lines, would actually net a smaller number. But actually it doesn't, because what happens when you run parallel with it, or if you run opposite to the pyramid line, you go, you crescendo, you start with a small amount, you go up to the most, and then it goes back down. If you're running parallel with it, it's the same cubic footage, for the full depth of the structure. So in this version, the net request still amounts to 4746 cubic feet. And then lastly, I even investigated a one-story addition. And in order to do a one-story addition and give us the same amount of additional living space as we would net with a second floor, you'd basically be doubling the size of the house and of the footprint. And when you look at the survey, the house is currently pretty crooked to the property line. So if you double the footprint and run that line back into the property, you can see that we'd be looking for, pretty extensive side yard relief on that side. So we'd be creating a new nonconformity. And secondly, when you do occupy that portion of the site with new footprint, then the septic gets pushed all the way back and any possibility for a pool goes away. So it just, it doesn't make sense from that standpoint. And the numbers, even on that, end up with a net request of 2335. So with what we are proposing, my net request is 1762. So it's the absolute minimum request to achieve this desired outcome, which is additional living space. The existing house is currently about 700 and change, with a front porch, a screen porch. So the footprint nets out at about 1,000 square feet. But the second floor that we're proposing isn't a full 100% second floor. It's within the roof lines of the cape. So the total square footage of the house, first and second, is going to be about 1,440 square feet. So it's a small house, I think appropriate for the lot size and appropriate for the neighborhood. It does not create any undesirable changes to the neighborhood or the nearby properties. In fact, there are 4 variances that were granted in the last, I think, 15 years in the immediate neighborhood for similar amounts of relief. And I submitted for the record and in each of your packets copies of the surveys and the determinations for each of those. In addition, I have letters of support from the 2 immediate abutting neighbors and the neighbor directly across the street. So, anybody who is looking at it or driving by it has all said, we love it. And I've submitted copies of those letters as well for the record.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Benefit sought cannot be achieved by any other method. I went through all the different permutations of what I looked at. It's the absolute minimum to achieve the benefit. It's not substantial. Again, when compared to all the other versions and when compared to the other 4 precedents in the neighborhood, it's a fairly modest request. It'll have no adverse impacts on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And it's not self-created because the house was built there 100 years ago and we're just looking to get a little more living space out of it.
David, did you have an opportunity to look at what Marjorie had to say?
Yes, she was primarily concerned with the survey. She wanted me to add how many square feet of the pool it was that actually required the relief. And so I did that here on the survey that we have, and it comes out to 100.9 square feet of relief. And I think that was it. I think it was a survey related request that she had.
Well, she had 4 comments. Did you read all 4 comments?
Yeah.
Helen, would you please read us for the record of those, please? Helen?
You want me to read it?
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, the north elevation used to illustrate the amount of pyramid encroachment shall be revised to coincide with the north elevation shown on page 4 of the plans and elevations last revised December 28th, 2020. So that's number 1. Number 2, the elevation shall also indicate the overall height of the proposed road. That's number 2. Now we're on to number 3. The survey shall be revised to indicate the percentage of rear yard coverage. And number 4, the surveyor shall indicate on the survey or by letter how much square footage of the swimming pool makes the rear yard coverage in excess of the allowable 20%.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. So
My pleasure. And you should have a copy of that.
I do. It's buried in my folder, which is already that thick. So I appreciate you getting right to it. So I did submit, for the record, new front elevations, which show the top of ridge, which is 25 foot 2 inches above natural grade. And it addresses her question and concern. I also added, for our benefit, the fact that, both of the floor, the plate height on the first floor is 8 feet. I'm not looking for a 9 or a 10 foot first floor here. So every effort was made to minimize the height. And as I said, the height is 25 foot 2 above natural grade. So this elevation is the pyramid diagram of record now in the drawings. And as you mentioned, the 100.9 square feet of pool and the 25.4% have been noted on the survey. So we took care of Margie's requests.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for David?
I'm interested in hearing from neighbors. I think it's a lot of relief for a very small lot. I was in the neighborhood. I think this house is going to stand out, and I think it is going to change the character of the neighborhood. And I think it's a lot of relief, and I'd like to see less relief. But let's see if any neighbors have anything to say.
Can I make one comment, Mr. DeSessa?
Please.
David, you use the concept of the net encroachment. I think what's applicable is not the net encroachment, because what we're looking at is what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. Not that we're going to say, oh, well, it used to be so-and-so, so we can subtract that. I don't really go for that. We just deal with the number.
Right.
Okay, that's correct, Mr. Sessa?
We do ask for the existing encroachment because that is an existing condition. So the net number that David gave us is what the degree or increase in the nonconformity would be. So
I know it's an increase, but the number is the number that it is now in terms of what we have to deal with. It's a concept that Mr. Daly was referring to in terms of it maybe being too big. I'm not saying yes or no on that, but I'm listening, and I think that the application of the net rule is something that I personally am not so happy with.
Sure. Well, we understand it. We've done it like that for some time. But let's see if there are any neighbors here. Or there first.
Might I say something, Brian, if I could for a second?
Please. Yep.
It is a constrained lot. I thought I heard David say he had letters, of support from the two most affected neighbors.
Yeah,
Correct.
I assume that's east and west, right?
correct. Yeah, and actually
Right.
north. So this, when he looks out his front door and what he sees, I can read them for the record. I did submit them, but I can.
No,
read
we have those in the record. We
Okay.
have those. Thank you.
So that.
And what's the total
I always
square-
I bring that forward because that was part of Mike's concern. I just wanted to make sure that he realized what David had said priorly. You
I
know?
heard,
And
I'm sort of like, I can appreciate the commentary from Helen, you know what I mean? And from Mike about it's 3,771 cubic feet. But I do buy the thing that's only 1,762 more than what's there. And he has the two affected neighbors. He has letters of support from them. You know, I don't have a problem with it.
David, can you repeat what the total square footage of the house will be?
1,440 square feet, 1,440.
Mr. Hahn or Mr. Kelly, anything before I turn this to the public?
No, I tend to echo Keith's opinion on this with the neighbors in support. And it's actually all three sides besides the street that are in support because one of the neighbors is an L-shaped lot that wraps around it.
Correct.
I echo Mr. Tuthill's comments.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Usually, I tend to like to see other variants of the building, and I think he has shown that this is the best option in this case. So, I'm okay.
David, is there any way to lower the plate heights of the second floor, which would reduce some of the variance requests?
Not really. I mean, the pitch, the overall, the plate height of the second floor is 8 feet. I think, where the variance is coming in is relative to the pitch. And in order to have a pitch for the shed roof that wouldn't be, close to flat, the ridge is, I didn't go in, I started with a 12 on 12 pitch, but I think I brought it down to something like a 9.5 or a 10 on 12 pitch. So there really isn't anywhere to go. I did everything I could to, pinch it everywhere.
is what you're showing right there, David, with the existing house and then the proposed house?
Yeah.
Is that
That's to scale.
scale?
Yeah, that's to scale. So the new ridge, you can see how the new ridge relates to the tree behind it versus here, the old ridge and the same tree behind it. So the new ridge is actually, this might even be, going
David,
back to.
What's the height of the existing house, the ridge?
We have that on the survey. I think that is 25.9. It's elevation 25.9. Everything is in relative datum. So if we've got a spot elevation of 6.0 on the corner of the house. So it's 20 feet.
So
and
the new
I'm
house
going-
is roughly
I'm going to
6 feet
25.
higher.
I'm going to 25 feet.
So
Yeah,
you're
so
increasing the height of the house by 6 feet,
yeah, 5 feet.
5 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm feeling a little bit better about it. I just was there today, and the neighborhood is still pretty modest. I mean, except for some of the waterfronts, but there's not a lot of big houses over there, and the house next to you is a little bit larger than yours right now, but probably not as big as this one that you're proposing.
It's actually identical because it started out as the same cottage and they put a full second story mansard on it.
Yeah, the mansard, I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's identical to what we're proposing.
Okay.
I think the fact that you're only raising the proposed roof height 5 feet is helpful in my mind in terms of scaling it to the neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
From my opinion, I know the relief is large. I'm not discounting that, but in terms
It
of
is,
the
it is.
streetscape, I think it works from a mass and scale perspective. Let me see if anybody's here. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak on 22 Bayview Road in Noyak? Now would be the time to raise your hand or signal you'd like to speak.
I see no hands.
Okay, great. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Daly.
Okay, so are we due anything from David at this point based on Marjorie's comments? I think we are, right? We need to have some additional information put on the survey, such as the.
I think that was on there, but we're going to leave it open for written subs pursuant to the order. So I think if anything has to happen, David should reach out to Marjorie to make sure we have the appropriate materials inside of the
Please do.
written
Please.
period. Yeah.
Please do, David. So we will close the public hearing, leave it open for written submission. This is my case, and I don't have those letters, so I don't know if it just wasn't sent or if it was sent in. But anyway, I'll need to find and get a hold of them. Leave it open.
Mike, we just received those letters, so they'll be in your submittals with your next package.
Okay. Leave it open for written submissions until April 5th, with a decision on April 15th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, David.
Thank you.
And just for the record, I didn't introduce Mr. Trezor earlier to our public meeting, who joins us from the planning board to offer opinions and expert advice when needed. So Mr. Trezor does join us there. So we thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to number 5.
All the planning stuff was adjourned.
Easy night for you, Mr. Trezor.
There you go.
Number
Number five.
Number 5 is a modification request, 89 Hayground Cove LLC in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-102-3-14.46. On November 19, 2020, by decision number D020104, this board granted the applicant relief to allow the conversion of the second floor of a detached garage into a carriage house. The decision was subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the transfer of one or more development right or pie barrens credit as required by Town Code 330-9D4 prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance / occupancy for the carriage house. By letter dated February 2, 2021, Elizabeth Vale of Farrell Fritz PC has requested said decision be modified to waive Town Code 330-9C1 to specifically allow for the transfer of a Pine Barrens credit to the subject property as proposed and agreed to at the public hearing on this matter. In the alternative, the applicant requests a waiver of Town Code 330-9D4.
Board has jurisdiction.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Liz.
Good evening.
Please tell us why you're here.
Good evening, board members. Liz Vale, Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill. So I'm here on behalf of the applicant, 89 Hayground Cove LLC. Can I just share my screen?
Please.
Thank you. Can you see my aerial?
We can.
Great. So as Mr. Tuttle stated, on November 19th, this board granted relief to allow the conversion of an existing detached garage, second story, to be a carriage house. And specifically, the board waived the lot area provision. We have an 88,176 square foot lot, or 2 acres. And the carriage house law requires 120,000 square feet. And it also waived the driveway requirement for having one entrance on the driveway requirement. Those were the only 2 variances required, and we met all of the other setbacks and standards for a carriage house. And the board found that we the proposed carriage house met the 5-part test. You may recall that originally in this case, we were issued a building permit erroneously for a carriage house, and then we built it. And then unfortunately, we had to take it out and remove all of the indicia of habitable space from the second story of the garage, which we did. And then we reapplied for the carriage house and sought relief from this board. The decision for the carriage house relief on transferring a development right relied on transferring a development right or a Pine Barren credit as required by Town Code Section 339D4. Specifically at the public hearing on this matter, I did submit to this board several times that I was going to bring in a Pine Barren credit. And since the decision stated or, I thought I could pursue the Pine Barren credit, and I entered into negotiations to purchase one on behalf of the client. Unfortunately, then I was informed that I had to actually come back to this board to clarify the ability to bring in a Pine Barren credit because Town Code Section 339C1 generally requires that the transfer of development rights occur within the same school district. So the provision is intended to protect against density increases that could possibly impact school districts. And here, I would just add that we're in the Watermill in the Southampton School District. We're only 30,000 square feet short under the carriage house lot area requirements. And we're creating only a 1-bedroom carriage house on the second story of a garage. That's approximately 610 square feet on an estate in Watermill. The property represents our client's second home, and the carriage house will most likely be used for either staff or guests and will not increase the number of school-age children in this area. Thus, we don't feel we're impacting the school district in any way by bringing in a Pine Barren credit. And specifically, this particular Pine Barren credit that we were seeking, I believe was from the West Hampton School District. But as you know, the Pine Barrens are all west of the canal. So in the alternative, I was asking this board to waive the provision entirely to allow the carriage house on site without a Pine Barren credit or development right, since I'm only short 30,000 square feet. In my cover letter to the board, I included other examples of variances granted for carriage houses issued by this board, most recently Moonlight LLC at 191 Montauk Highway, where the board granted a lot area variance for 69,700 square feet, where 90,000 square feet was required with numerous other variances and did not require a Pine Barren credit or development right transfer. Also, a matter of Dorothy Simmons, where they legalized a carriage house on a 45,000 square foot lot without bringing in the development right. Exeter Land Development LLC, and then the application of Aspen Bear at 419 Paul's Lane in Bridgehampton, where the board waived the development right requirement to allow a non-conforming dwelling to be converted to a carriage house. And I did submit other examples in my letter to the board. But anyway, that's my application for this evening. And if I can answer any questions, I'd be really happy to.
Great. Are there board member questions for Liz?
So the credit you're talking about that's from West Hampton, you own it, or that was just one you were pursuing?
I was pursuing. I was in contract to purchase it when we realized that this was an issue.
Gotcha.
With the school district issue.
Okay.
But it does say, so it does say Pine Barren credit or development right. And then it says as required pursuant to 339D 4. So that was the issue.
Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry, were you done asking questions?
Yeah, no, that was it. Thank you.
Any other board questions, concerns, thoughts? Are we looking to clarify a Pine Barren credit or waive the credit to allow the carriage house to exist as we've done on previous occasion?
I can share the survey too.
I'm not inclined to waive the credit, the requirement.
Are you okay with the Pine Barren credit being from West Hampton, Michael?
Yes.
Helen?
I haven't decided.
Okay. Mr. Hahn, Jason?
I'm kind of leaning with Michael.
To allow the West Hampton credit.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Tuttle.
Same.
Um,
I'm with Michael and Jason.
okay.
I did submit to the board that I would transfer in a Pine Barren credit several times, so
Okay, so you're still, the applicant's still willing to do that, Liz?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if there's anybody here from the public. Is there anybody here from the public with respect to 89 Hayground Cove LLC, located at 89 Hayground Cove in Watermill? Now would be the time to raise your hand to speak up on the application.
There are
Charles?
no hands. No hands.
Okay. It sounds like we're going in the direction of amending or modifying the approval to permit the Pine Barren credit to come in from West Hampton. Is there anything else we would need to do on that, Katie?
Nope.
Okay. And that's what your client wants us or is requesting us to do, Liz?
Yes, just to clarify that I can use a Pine Barren credit in this matter. In this particular one, I'm trying to purchase this from West Hampton, but I'm trying to use a Pine Barren credit instead of a development right. That was the issue. Pursuant to the code.
Issues from out of the district.
Correct.
Right.
So, okay, are there any other board questions for Liz or thoughts? Okay, hearing nobody else. Mr. Kelly, it's all yours.
All right, move to close the public hearing, leaving open for written submissions until April 5th with a written decision on April 15th.
Second.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Hello, aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, Liz. Have a good evening.
Thank you, board members. Have a good evening.
The only thing I'd like to add to that is, Katie, I might need some help with that, if you could.
I can draft it.
All right, thank you. That's. Thank you.
Item 13 on the agenda. Diego and Marlene Quispe, 828 Flanders Road in Flanders, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-143-3-47. This is held over from our February 18th meeting.
Yep, we're looking for Dave Radigan. Looks like we have Dave and the Quickspies.
Yes.
They're here.
Can you hear us?
Yep, we just need
Yeah.
Dave to share his screen.
Start the video.
Oh, yeah, start his video, sorry.
Okay, David, you were sworn in last time, correct?
Yes, we were.
Okay, please tell us what you've come up with.
All right, what did say you think?
Okay, again, just want to prepare the board. I'm profoundly deaf. I want to read my statement. And then if you have questions, I would hope that you wait to the end before you ask them. We've been asked by the board to return tonight from the February 18th meeting to provide the board with some additional information with regards to our relief request. First of which is the cost estimates that you wanted for the second story addition to reconstruct that roof, including the demo of the fire damaged original roof frame, the materials and the labor. The cost of those actual the working materials was $13,088. I provided the board with those proposals from the contractor. These were stated on an invoice dated April 2009 by CEVC Carpentry, copies of which have been provided for your review. I don't know if you have that in front of you. We've also been asked to provide the added cost for the demo and reconstruct of the roof frame to the pre-house fire conditions. Those cost estimates, again, have been prepared by CEQV Carpentry, as stated on an invoice proposal dated February of this year, February 22nd of this year. It's estimated that those costs are $7,821. The total of the as-built second-story addition and the demo and the reconstruction of the roof frame to pre-fire conditions is a total of $20,909, nearly $21,000. We've also, the board has also asked us to give some clarity as to the amount of actual pyramid relief we're seeking. As per Jeffrey Hatterer, a licensed surveyor with Forks, licensed surveyors, and predicated on an amended survey dated February 22nd, 2021. As depicted, the pre-construction non-conformance equals approximately 2,660 cubic feet on the east side and 375 cubic feet on the pre-existing non-conformance on the west side. The post-construction cubic feet adds an additional 809 cubic feet to the east side and 405 cubic feet to the west side of the structure. The totals for the existing additions and the post-construction totals are 3,469 cubic feet on the east side and 780 cubic feet on the west side. Total added cubic feet post-construction equals 1,214 cubic feet. The second story addition, which was built without the benefit of permit, is actually a story and a half A-frame, is only 3 feet 6 inches taller than the original structure. And if granted, would add just an additional 520 square feet of habitable living area. In all accounts, the board in the past has granted these types of things. The trustees come in early on prior and building this without permit. It's a safe bet to say that the board would have been very receptive to the improvements. Any questions? I'll try to take them now.
I appreciate the work that you did and the applicant did. You're right, we would have been more receptive. We do not condone construction without permits and legalizing as-built, and that's a major concern here and in the town. So we need that to be clear that, there is a possibility that the board, does ask you to tear this down because you did it without permits or approvals. With that said, it is a constrained lot. It is a challenge in my mind to do something effectively here. I would like to know where you are with your conservation permit.
Where are we with the conservation permit?
We just provided conservation with an amended survey. We're in the process in the health department of putting an IA system in. It's taken a little bit of time. There is a bog or freshwater wetlands that sits 104 feet off this property. Marty Shea has suggested that he wants a better view of the IA system that is going in. It presently is before the health department. It was designed by Michael Mapes, PE, and it should be forthcoming, within days. We have to satisfy Marty with regards to, he wants to take a better look at what was designed. He has been provided with Michael Mapes engineering and cross sections of the design, the placement. He has one other concern in that there is a wide swath of concrete driveway that has been added to the site. It was placed unbeknownst to the previous owners, and Marty suggests we may have to make that go away before he gives our stamp of approval. So that's where we are with them. Again, health department should be days away. Well, we've satisfied all the requirements, and We're just waiting to hear what the status is.
Are there any other board questions or comments at this time?
Over.
He's just asking if the board has questions.
I'm good, Brian. No question.
Jason?
I'm good.
Cornelius?
Same here.
Daley?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Anything? Or you don't have to. I'm just saying if there was questions or thoughts on.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, great. Helen?
No, I have no questions.
Is there anyone from the public here on the application of 828 Flanders Road in Flanders? Charles?
No hands.
Great. So the only question in my mind is whether we leave it open for written submissions or we wait till you have your conservation permit. Typically, this board waits to get a referral report or a permit. So we're going to need to adjourn this to some extent to receive that. And since you just filed it, I think it's going to have to be a longer adjournment. It seems like you've satisfied the board, but until we get that conservation permit, our practice is not to act. So we're going to need to wait on that. And so do you have an idea on timeline for the wetland permit, for which purpose we can adjourn this?
Do you have any the timeline for the wetlands permit for the conservation?
You know what, that's all up to Marty Shea. I don't know. I've been trying to see him one-on-one with the COVID. He's not really receiving anybody in his office. We pretty much satisfied everything he was looking for on the survey, but we haven't heard back as to what the status of that application is. It's been before him for about 3 months. So hopefully he'll review the amended survey and give us a yay and amen on that.
All right. My suggestion, Jason, would be to adjourn this until either April 15th or May 6th to get an update on conservation.
That sounds good to me.
You want to go May 6th since you said it could be 3 months, so.
Or what, comments?
No, for they're going to adjourn.
Oh.
And then until we get the conservation. So
Okay.
they're saying either April or May.
Okay, you would like us to come back?
We need to keep the meeting open until we get the conservation permit to see if that's going to affect
Okay.
any of the relief.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Okay,
I would say April, because it does look like it might be administrative, so maybe it's quicker.
All right, so Jason, maybe a suggestion is April 15th for all purposes.
Sure, I'll make a motion to adjourn this matter for all purposes until our April 15th meeting.
Okay, I'd like to say one more thing before we leave you. The Crispies are here. If you have any questions of them, they would, love to participate.
I think we're good. Thank you for coming, and please don't build again without permits. It's not what we recommend in this town or condone.
I think they learned that lesson.
With that, is there a second for Mr. Hahn's motion?
Second.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. We'll see you April 15th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, item 14 on the agenda is Hampton Beacocks 1 LLC in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-113-1-17.1. This is 945 North C. Beacocks Road. It's held over from our February 18th meeting.
Is there anybody here for the applicant?
Yes, Bill DeConza. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
I don't know why can't you see me? Let me see.
I'll help you.
Hang on, there we go. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good,
And did I
thanks.
swear? Were you sworn
Yeah,
in
you
by
swore
Mr.
me in
Grossman
last time.
Okay.
Sure, yes. So I guess I'm still sworn in?
Yes, yep, it's continuing
Okay.
on. You keep telling us the truth.
Okay, I promise to, I swear. Last time we were here, and this is for a tennis court. We had sought a side and rear yard variance. The neighbor, Mr. Summers, had appeared objecting to the application. He and I spoke earlier this week briefly. His opinion was that he would never approve anything less than the 30 feet or consent to. It's you guys would approve or not approve. So that was basically where that discussion ended. I'd like to be able to share, if I may.
You may.
Boy, how do I get to my, I'm sorry. How do I get to my screen? Share screen.
Can you tell us how much you've moved the court?
Yes, I'd prefer to show you if I could. Hold on, let me see.
Should be a green button down below.
Can you see this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Down below should be a green share button. You have to hover over it with your mouse, though.
Right.
And then just click on the green button.
Here, okay. How about this?
Almost. Yep, we got you.
You see this plan?
Yep.
We do.
Okay. What you had asked for was to slide the tennis court. It was 15 off the rear and 15 off the side. And it's supposed to be 30 and 30, right? So what you asked was to increase those setbacks. And he had mentioned that on this flag lot he has behind us, he had received certain approvals that allowed him to get within 15 feet of the side yard for the main house and 30 feet for the accessory pool. I looked at that file and I saw what they had approved back in 2003. Because he does have some wetlands issues and the rest of this area is a non-disturbance buffer. So what I had our surveyor do was to line his survey up with our survey, because I wanted to get a feel for how our tennis court location would work, assuming that he got this reapproved again if he went back. Now, over the years, these wetlands tend to grow. My brother lost a whole lot out at Cold Spring Fairways because he didn't develop it in time and the wetlands took it over. But we'll assume he got the neighbor got the same approvals. So what I did was, can you see this?
Yeah.
Can you see this one here? Where we've superimposed the tennis court. This is at 30 foot. So this is basically the as of right tennis court location. 30-foot rear and 30-foot side. It's 63 feet to his proposed pool, and it's 99 feet to the proposed house. Now,
and that doesn't require a variance, right?
That does not require variance.
You have my vote on that one.
No, I spent. Let me just continue here, if I may, please.
There you go, Bob.
When we go to 20-foot setback, we're 110 feet from his house and 61 feet from the pool. So we actually, as we get into a variance area, we're getting this tennis court further from his house. So he benefits from me moving this tennis court away from him. When we get to the application that I introduced 2 weeks ago with the 15 and the 15, we're 116 feet from his house. So by being able to tuck this tennis court back into the corner, as we had originally proposed, and only being 15 and 15, we're parallel with the non-disturbance zone back here where he can never do anything. And we're at a maximum distance. We're 17 feet further from his house than the conforming pool would be. So just as a matter of thought, a conforming pool would only be 99 feet from his house. The tennis court we're seeking is 116 feet from his house. So we're less of a problem to him. We're parallel to the tennis court on the neighbor's property. If those variances were able to be granted. So that's what we came up with when we looked at his argument that he has to build his house within 15 feet of the property line. Well, if I put my tennis court where it's allowed to be, I'm more on top of him than where I want to put it. Plus,
So,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, you can finish.
Plus, we've got this ridge. We have a property that drops 18 feet over the whole thing. A plateau was created to allow the home to be developed, and then it drops pretty drastically. And that's why we wanted to put this sunken tennis court, it's 6 to 8 feet below grade, back in this corner so that we weren't coming into play at all with the drop off here. So there are a bunch of reasons why it makes more sense to keep it as back and far away into this corner as possible.
So, one of the things that we have to do as a zoning board of appeals is to grant the least amount of relief necessary to accomplish the applicant's goals, you know, in the absence of a feasible alternative.
Yes.
And the applicant's goals here is to fit a tennis court of 55 by 110 in size. And you've provided to us tonight a location that fits without the need for a variance. So in my mind, I have a really hard time granting a variance when I know, or you've proven to us, that a full-size tennis court is going to fit there without the need for relief. So I'm struggling with that because we have to grant the least amount of relief necessary, and you can do this with no relief. So, I mean, I'm happy to hear the 5-factor test from you, but I am concerned with that.
Sure.
Yeah, that doesn't sway my feelings about what we spoke about last meeting.
The problem we have is the uniqueness of this piece of property, the way it comes in at a slice in the back, that makes the plateau here, putting this tennis court much closer into the property really doesn't work well at all with the steepness of the slope that had to be created here to be a level plateau to put this house on. This property is unique in that from the street frontage to the rear property line, it drops 18 feet. That had to be leveled off so that the 18-foot drop starts way beyond the midway point of this property. So this tennis court has to come into that area if we slide it more into the property. What we're trying to do here, and what we have opposite us on the other side of the property, I was looking for that aerial, is the neighbors, can you see this here? Are you able to see what I'm showing here?
Yep.
Okay. Our tennis court would be approximately right here. So we'd be right opposite the neighbor's tennis court in his backyard. We'd be opposite a buffered area that can't be developed on Mr. Summers' backyard. And we're near a kind of a junkyard here on this side on the other neighbor's backyard. So there really is the benefit to us to being able to put it here has no detriment to any of the surrounding property owners. In fact, as I demonstrated earlier, we're further from Mr. Summers' proposed house and pool than we would be if we put it in a conforming location. He gets a huge benefit by us pushing this thing as far as we can to the side of the property. And it's not detrimental to anyone.
But as Mr. DeSessa said, our job is to avoid relief whenever possible, and this is a situation where it's possible.
Well, it's one of the 5 standards.
Yeah.
You know, is there a other feasible place to do that? But I think the benefit to the applicant and the benefit to the neighbor outweighs moving this thing back to a conforming location and having to dig into the mid-property slope here. Why would you not allow a variance if it benefits everybody involved? You're not bound to deny a variance just because whenever you build these houses, I mean, you've seen every application you had tonight. They could have all been built without a variance, but you granted the variance because that's what was appropriate and that's what was standard. This tennis court can be built without a variance, but it's more of a benefit to the property owner and to the surrounding properties to grant the variance and back it up into this corner.
Well, let's see if anybody's here and we can then take that point up. I think it's a valid point, but let's see.
There's no one here.
If there's any neighbors here.
Yes, I am here.
Yes.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Summers.
You know, firstly, I'd like to point out that the tennis court that Mr. DeConza is talking about is actually 30, that borders one side of my property, is 30 feet away from the property line. It's conforming. Second, the court that they plan to build is a what do they call that? A very sunken court. So they have to dig out actually to build the court rather than build up. And there's there's been a lot of fill brought into that property in order to build it up. I'd say on the north side of their property, the south side of my property, they've the south east side of my property, they've built up by about 8 to 10 feet of property to make this thing a level. I guess they wanted a level backyard, but there was never the kind of slope there that exists, you know, that really required what they did. They just chose, I guess people like flat backyards, and I, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not certain if I'm going to build back there. I think, as Mr. DeConza pointed out, wetlands are always moving. When I was doing this project, I had it surveyed about 5 times, and each time the wetlands moved, and they never move in your favor. In any event, you know, I think that there is room for them to put the court in a location that will not terribly impact the value of their property, and over a period of time may end up helping me. I hope it does. If it doesn't, no harm, but that's sort of my position on it.
Also, that house was designed when we got the wetlands approval a very long time ago. The wetlands may very well move.
Well, that's what I was just saying. I don't
and
know
we're not necessarily going to build that specific house. That was what we were going to do those many years whenever he got the survey for building a house and a pool. But that was the only place then that we could build a house and pool. That's not necessarily where it's going. And the pictures that are shown are very misleading, because what looks like a junkyard happens to be the Zay's house. And the trees that are all there were all taken down. And there's still a pile of dirt behind the house that Mr. DeConza is talking about that they're planning on pushing down towards our property. And they've put a concrete wall so that it doesn't all fall onto our property. But already, because they haven't quite finished the concrete wall, the dirt is already floated onto our property. So it's not wonderful. And the only reason they...
If Mr. Shea saw what they did, he'd go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is all really not very good relative to wetlands, but, you know, and they brought in all this dirt that they haven't yet moved down because it froze in the winter time. So it's all sitting behind the house and being ready to be shoved down towards our property, which is not particularly wonderful. But if they hadn't built up the property by dumping all this dirt where the house is, they wouldn't have had such a drop off. I don't understand why they did what they did, but they did. But the fact that they're talking about this tennis court being 119 or whatever feet from this house that we might have built 20 years ago doesn't seem to me very cogent at all.
The fill that they're doing is permitted. They're outside of the wetlands jurisdiction, but I understand that. So, but you know, they're not here for that.
No, I understand that. I'm not.
No, I know. I understand. I'm just clarifying for the record so that we have other applications that do that. There is dimensional relief, and as I'm hearing it, you don't want any. You would not consent to any dimensional relief from your side of the property line. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just wrap up, or I'm sorry, was there more?
Is there any board questions for the Summers? William, if you would like to tell us something shortly, and then I think we've heard enough on this.
Sure. As far as the drop-off is concerned, historically, the front of the property was 18 feet higher than the rear of the property. And yes, they did create a plateau to put the house on. There was an industrial gas station, service station that was up at the front of the road. And then the property drastically declined back to the rear property line. And the picture I have up here, the Zay's backyard, this is their backyard. I'm not showing pictures of their home. Their home is a nice home up near the road. In the back, they have all this stuff stored and they keep adding stuff every day. So this is what is opposite where the tennis court would be. So again, I think that you have a unique enough situation here where it's not precedent setting at all. You have a unique topography that would lend itself to approval of the location of the tennis court. You have a unique shape of the property that comes in as the pie shape, so that to put this thing back in the corner, we'd be very far from the Summers home and very far from the Zay's home, and opposite, almost adjoining the tennis court of the abutting neighbor. So I think that's the most innocuous place to do it. It's most beneficial not only to the applicant, but to the neighbors, and it has no negative impact upon anybody. So we would urge that the board grant that. I've submitted a plan for a 20-foot setback where the tennis court, it's not 15 feet, but it's 20 feet to move it closer into the property, more into conformity as the board has asked. So that's before the board as well. Again, it's getting closer to Mr. Summers' building envelope, but if that's what he'd prefer, we can move in that direction.
Are there any other board questions before I take this?
Listen, less is better. He's got a conforming location, put it there. This is another case of they want what they want, they want it where they want it. That's my comment. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. Okay, seeing or hearing no one else, I have the lead on the application. I move that we close the public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions to April 5th with a written determination on April 15th. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to our decision calendar.
We are.
I have a decision.
Brian,
Yes.
hold on a minute. I missed it. Did you vote on it? Or did you just?
Was there a second to my motion? Sorry.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Now we can move on to the decision calendar. I have a determination in the matter of 95 Crescent LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-17-1-5. The application is for property located at 95 Crescent Street in Noyak. Applicant proposes an at-grade patio and swimming pool. The application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law. Therefore, the board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings and structures and uses in all districts, and Town Code Section 330-83C yards, to allow the proposed swimming pool and pervious at-grade patio to be located within the minimum and total side yard of the principal building, and Town Code Section 330-11, Residential District Table of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory front yard setback, Upper Sag Harbor Cove, of 43.8 feet, where 50 feet is required, for the proposed pool. All for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Kenneth Wochuk, licensed surveyor, dated October 25th of 2017, last revised February 21st of 2021. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I have a determination in the matter of Douglas and Elizabeth Muse, located Suffolk County Tax Map 900-123-2-24. Property is located at 17 Pine Avenue in Flanders. Applicants propose to raise the existing dwelling to comply with FEMA and also propose to add a wraparound deck and stairway. The applicant passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, the board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, to raise the existing dwelling and construct a proposed addition, 330-84D pyramid, for an encroachment in the amount of 624 cubic feet. 2, for the front steps, section 330-83D yards, to allow the stairway that is required by law to project into the required front yard setback of 17.1 feet, where a setback of 20.6 feet would be permitted. 3, for the portion of the proposed wraparound deck attached to the front of the, located within the front yard of the building, and, to allow the deck that is higher than 1 foot above grade level to be located within the required front yard of the principal building. 4, for the portion of the proposed wraparound deck and attached to the west side of the dwelling. Town Code Section 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts. And Section 330-83C yards, to allow this portion of the deck to be located within the total required side yard of the principal building. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by AJC Land Surveying, PLLC, dated September 12th of 2009, last revised October 9th of 2020, and the plan prepared by Nigel Robert Williamson, architect, dated October 13th of 2020. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the removal of both sheds prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy or compliance.
Second.
Who was the second? I couldn't hear it, sorry.
Second. Me.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Motion passes. I have a determination in the matter of Robert Ralph, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-391-2-28. Property is located at 639 Dune Road in West Hampton. Applicant proposes to construct a pool fence and 281 square feet of decking on the second story. The application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, for the reasons set forth herein, the board grants relief from Town Code Section 183-17A, C, and D, non-conforming buildings and structures, for the construction of a pool fence and 281 square feet of second-story deck in the coastal erosion hazard area. This board also grants, hold on, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Requests of relief from Town Code Section 330-46 2B1 and 2 adjacent areas for the construction of a pool fence located 58.5 feet landward of the crest of Dune, where relief of 76.8 feet was previously granted by the zoning board. Decision number D018062, and relief for the construction of a second floor deck located 75 feet landward of the crest of Dune, where 125 feet is required. Grant of the foregoing relief is for structures and fencing specifically in the locations shown on the survey prepared by Francis C. Watson, land surveyor, September 24th of 2016, last revised February 18th of 2021. And it's subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval, including 1, the implementation of a revegetation plan prepared by Susan Wilinski of Spaces Landscape Architecture dated November 16th of 2020. 2, the revision of a survey to remove any note regarding any artificial turf as it is strictly prohibited. And 3, the condition that the area between the pool and the fence remains sand. No gravel, decking, patio, or artificial turf is permitted in that area.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
No.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
No.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I have a determination in the matter of Susan and Matt Daimler. Suffolk County Tax Map 900-232-3-7.5 and 7.6. This application is for property located at 3 Knoll Road in Shinnecock Hills. Applicant proposes to construct a detached garage and tennis court. After discussions with the board and by reducing both the size of the garage and the tennis court, the applicants were able to reduce the rear yard lot coverage to 26% and the proposed garage to 28% of the existing dwelling as modified. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief for the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, for the proposed detached garage. 330.11 Residential District Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from street setback front yard of 40 feet where 50 feet is required from the easterly property line, Knoll Road. 2, for the proposed 55 by 108 tennis court. 2, Town Code Section 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts, and Town Code Section 330-83C yards to allow the tennis court to be located within the minimum side yard for the principal building, and Town Code Section 330-77D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in residential districts, for a proposed rear yard coverage of 26%, where a maximum of 20 is permitted. All for the structures as shown on the site plan and building plans and elevations prepared by architect Pamela Glazer, dated January 11th, 2021, last revised February 26th, 2021. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval.
Second.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
No.
Mr. Daly.
No.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. There is,
Cornelius says.
I have one other if you're done.
great.
You done? Okay, I got determination in the matter of Michael and Jean Petrie, 18 Middle Road, East Quogue, tax map 900-292-313. I'm going to read the request for relief at the end. At the public hearing, Daphne Vaughan of Surfside Environmental Planning, Inc., agent for the applicant, testified that the owners wish to create a small addition to the existing dwelling. The addition will be a new enclosed front entry vestibule and expanded roof overhang over the front portion of the existing residence. Ms. Vaughan further testified that the existing generator will be relocated to a minimum from 10 feet from the property line, and the shed will be moved to a conforming location. Board finds the application to be a type 2 secret, and it meets the 5-part test. Therefore, in the interest of justice and for the reasons set forth herein, this board grants applicant relief from town code for 1, front covered porch 330-11, residential districts table of dimensional regulations for a principal front yard setback of 32.7 feet, where 40 feet is required, and for a front entry vestibule 330-11, for principal front yard setback of 35.7 feet, where 40 feet is required. In addition, to clarify the town records, variance relief for the existing bump out on the front of the dwelling, east side, is required from Town Code 330-11 for a principal front yard setback of 38.6 feet, where 40 feet is required, as shown on architectural renderings made by Paul J. Clinton Architect, PC, last dated August 6, 2020, as well as a survey made by Colonial Surveying, PC, last revised January 14th, 2021, which show all proposed improvements. This decision is conditioned upon the removal or relocation to a conforming location of the shed, must also comply with pyramid regulations, and generator prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy compliance. The grant of the foregoing relief is further conditioned upon the applicant obtaining all of the necessary permits or approvals by the town of Southampton Building Department.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I think that does it for us.
That doesn't.
That's it.
Is there a motion to close?
Motion to vote.
Motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.